Hello, once again. Welcome to Grace in Motion Ministries. I'm Charles Womack, and we want to thank you again for allowing us into the privacy of your home. Again, we believe that it's all about God's grace, and God's grace is always in motion. You know, we have heroes all around us, but we believe that in this spiritual warfare, we have Christian heroes because you must have warriors in the midst of a warfare. So therefore, those warriors transform into heroes because of responsibilities, because of callings, because of missions that God has given to them. And not only that, they're now carrying the responsibility of that calling, holding up the torch of spirituality. I am here today with two magnificent guests, and I'm going to tell you about them. They're going to tell you more about themselves. One sister, her story is phenomenal. And that story is all about the concept of heartburns. Not the heartburns that Tom can settle, but the heartburn that other things, such as relief from other agencies that she's working hand in hand with, can. We'll know more about that in a moment. Also, we have with her a beautiful guest by the name of Stephanie Wright. Stephanie Wright is with the American Red Cross, and Miss Linda McQueen Crosby, of course, is the founder of Heartburn Foundation. With no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our beautiful guests and Christian heroes. To my left is Miss Linda Crosby. How are you?
I'm blessed. How are you?
Wonderful. The pleasure. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And Stephanie, how are you today?
Great, thank you.
Good, good, good. We're going to go ahead and get started, you all. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get started with you, Ms. Crosby, with this very significant question. And I say that because as I have read much of your literature, I've spoken with you, and I've heard your story. And I want your story now to be shared with our viewing audience. And that is, I want you to tell us, first of all, what grace means to you based on that experience that you had that was very close to being a fatal tragedy. As you are an airline stewardess, or was, and probably have moved up in the ranks, something occurred that has brought you to find this wonderful organization called Heartburn. One, tell us the story. Two, tell us how you were able to birth the concept called Heartburn Foundation.
It was on June 10th of 1972. I was on a routine flight from Nashville, Tennessee to LaGuardia. All the passengers had gotten off. There was one couple in the back, and when I walked in the back and I asked the gentleman why he did not get off, he said, I had open heart surgery and I'm feeling a little discomfort. I'd like to have oxygen. And I said, well, you know, we're on the ground now. And I said, we can just go outside and get oxygen, or we can get the paramedics to assist you. He says, no, I think I need to have it right now. And I said, we don't normally give oxygen on the ground. So let me go up and talk to the captain and I'll come right back to you. So I went up and I got the captain. The captain walked back to me. He walked back to the passenger and he asked him a couple of questions. And he turned around and looked at me and he says, well, why don't we go ahead and give it to him? And then he looked at me, he said he might try to sue the company, so let's just go ahead and give it to him. Well, I took the bottle down like I normally do, and usually I will set it right next to the passenger, but this time I set it across from him. And I looked at the gauges and I began to test it, and as I began to turn it on, it blew up like a bomb.
Wow.
It caught me on fire from my waist up. The captain grabbed a blanket and he put my face and my hair out. They carried me downstairs and they put me in the ambulance. When I arrived at the hospital, they had me on the operating room table, and as I was laying there, I was beginning to watch the heart monitor beat, and all of a sudden it stopped beating and it flatlined. And as it flatlined, I heard them say, code blue, code blue. Immediately, some other gentlemen ran into the room, and they put a machine on me, the paddles on my chest, and they started to administer electric shock to me. And as this happened, my body jumped off the table. And the second time they did it, it jumped off the table, and I was able to look back down at them working on my body. I knew it was me, but I also knew I was in the air too. I was looking down at them working on me, and I looked at myself and I said, that's me. But I said, oh, I look terrible. My face was black and charred. But the amazing thing to me was I was just as alive in my spirit as I was when my spirit was in my body. I began to float through the room, and I crossed over. And as I began to float out of the room, I saw my grandfather.
Okay.
My grandfather's been dead for 30 years.
Wow.
And when I saw my grandfather, he looked at me and he frowned. And he said, "Go back." And I said, "No." And I said, "You probably don't know who I am, because I was a child when you died." And I stood there trying to explain to him who I was. He said, "No, go back." And I said, "No, I'm not going back. You don't understand who I am."
Right.
Then he looked at me again and he said, "Go back." And I said, "Wait a minute." I started to get angry.
Yes.
I said, "This is not how this is supposed to go.
Okay.
You are supposed to be glad to see me.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going back."
Okay.
And the next thing I knew, I was encompassing the white light of Christ. And I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, "What have you done to bless someone while you on earth?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Is anyone better off because they know you?" I said, "No." And the next thing I knew, I was back in my body again. And as I settled back down in my body, I heard the doctors tell my mother, "Now, Mother, we lost her on the operating room table, but we were able to bring her back. Now, I don't know if she's ever going to see again.
Okay.
I don't know if her hair is ever going to grow back. I don't know if she's ever going to use her hands. And because of the size of her head, she will probably have brain damage." And my mother looked at him and he said, "You know what? I've already talked to the Lord."
Okay.
And the Lord said, "In about 5 years, when you look at her, you'll never know she had this accident."
Wow.
He said, she said, "She will see again, her hair will grow back, and she'll use her hands." And she said, "You will never know that this accident happened to her."
Wow.
And he looked at her and he said, "Okay, Mother." And I heard them walk out of the room. And I heard her walk to my bed, and she said, "Now, Linda, now listen. I know that you heard what they said, but listen to what I am saying. I've already talked to the Lord. He said, within 5 years, you're going to be perfectly normal." And what stuck out in my mind more than anything else was 5 years. And I thought, my God, 5 years.
Right, absolutely.
That seemed like an eternity to me.
Yes.
But it was actually about 4.5 years that I was returned to normal. It took time. I had to learn how to use my hands again.
Yes.
When I was beginning to heal, all the black chard came off my face. I was pink. Then I turned white, and from the white I began to get brown dots in my face as my pigment started to come back.
Okay.
I started to get eyebrows and eyelashes, and I started to get little fuzz on the top of my
Right.
hair. My
Okay.
hair started to come back.
Okay.
It was almost like the Lord had just colored me back in.
Awesome.
with the pigment coming back, the dots all over the face.
Yes.
And so He colored me back in and put me back together again.
Wow.
So from this and from his questions, I thought I had better get busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next time I go before heaven, I will not be a reject and be sent back down here again.
Absolutely.
So when I go before him again, he'll say, "What have you done to bless someone?" I'll have something to tell him.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Again, and I thank you for sharing that with our viewing audience because, so many times I think that when we think about, our responsibility on earth, we take it for granted.
That's right.
But then when we have a close encounter with the spiritual kind, mind you, we begin to reconsider. Now, let me ask you this, because I know that we don't like talking about the subject matter of leaving this earth, but it's a reality for all of us. I guess my question is, when you were actually leaving from the plane experience, on your way to the hospital, of course, I think I read where they were talking to you and you were trying to tell them that, I'm leaving, and they were saying, no, you're not going anywhere. They were really on you. What were you thinking? You were thinking that I'm about to leave this experience, or were you fighting, or did you get scared, intimidated? Was there peace? What were you feeling, Linda?
It was such a feeling of peace. It was beyond understanding. And it was so peaceful that I knew I was getting ready to leave. Because on the earth, I felt okay about everything, but I never had this feeling of peace before. The peace was amazing, and I was ready to go into that peace.
Yes.
So I just felt like I was leaving here because the peace I felt was so amazing.
Well, that's awesome because, like I said, this is a subject matter that persons don't like touching, but again, I'm glad that the Lord has sent you our way so that you could share your story with us. So let us know that, while we're here, we need to get busy and take care of some business because sometimes we may not get that second shot at it.
That's it.
So therefore it's real important. I'm going to move over and I'm going to talk to my beautiful sister over here who got that energy as well. And I'm excited about your presence as well, Ms. Wright. And you know, you, of course, I'm going to just let everyone know again, you are a supervisor with the Red Cross, and you all do phenomenal things. Tell us exactly more about what you do, your title, and your mission as far as your responsibilities, please.
Excuse me. My title is a mouthful, and it's Disaster Case Management Supervisor.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, what I do is I provide technical supervision and guidance to the 5 disaster caseworkers that are assigned to me.
Okay.
Our chapter, excuse me, the Metropolitan Atlanta chapter is a 15-county chapter, and we have 5 branch offices spread around the perimeter, more or less. And there's 5 caseworkers, and what I do is provide them with technical advice on, you know, some policy issues and things that they come across as they deliver service to people who have been victims of disasters, be it fire, flood, tornado, earthquake, regardless.
Okay, okay. And what is the association that you have with the Heartburn Foundation? Red Cross, Heartburn, how does that marriage work?
Okay. Well, several years ago, Linda came to me and she shared her story with me, and she wanted to find a way that we could marry the services that Red Cross provides with heartburn services. And I began to explain to her how Red Cross function and how we work. And when there's a time of need, Red Cross is going to be there 24/7. But as everyone knows, one agency cannot meet all of the needs of a single individual family. And with the American Red Cross, we provide what we consider or what we call basic services. We assist families with food, with clothing. We assist them in relocating, getting back into their homes. We also provide temporary lodging. But there is a little gap of services that we may not be able to provide, and that's where Heartburn comes in. There are lots of agencies that we can make referrals to, but those agencies are also being bombarded with people who have not been victims of a disaster, but who have needs. So a lot of time their resources are not available, or the wait is so long. And what we do, what we have with Heartburn Foundation is we have another source, another agency that we can refer families to. We do keep in mind, I do keep in mind that Linda's organization is new and just starting up. So funding and having a financial base is something that, you know, we're all working with. So we try not to bombard her, you know, with the numbers. In the Metro Atlanta area, we respond to over 500 fires a year, and that's a lot.
Yes, it is.
And funding is always an issue for Red Cross as well as for an organization like Heartburn. So we're all starting small with her. And when we make referrals, we try to make sure that, you know, it's within the realm of her agency to help.
Okay, excellent. And listening to that explanation of what Red Cross is all about, Linda, now back to you. Your organization is focused solely on burnt survivors, or survivors of experiences, fire, etc. Exactly what are you targeting? I know that's the target, but what are you doing per se for that group of persons?
Like Stephanie said, if there's something that they can't provide, like they may have a category in which they give certain items to, but say if they need a table, or if they need a lamp, or if maybe a blind lady needs a coffee maker, then we can provide these services, but maybe their category does not cover that. It's the small items that they can't cover, we cover.
Now, I know, and that's a beautiful thing to provide the tangible needs. But what about those needs that we just can't see? Those needs that are external, those internal, the counseling. You know, and I assume that survivors do need counsel, And if that be the case, do you do anything for them?
Yes, we do a lot of counseling.
Okay.
We do have a specific counselor that goes through Grady Hospital. I do counseling myself.
Okay.
I work with people that have been severely burned, that are in Grady Hospital, and we do go down there and we counsel with them and talk with them and find out what their needs are,
Okay.
find out what they're going through, what they're
Okay.
feeling,
Okay.
because different burn survivors experience different things.
Sure.
Some of them may have a fear factor.
Sure.
It could be any number of things that they're dealing with.
Okay.
A lot of times they're not ready to get out in the public for
Okay.
a long time.
Okay.
Because people begin to stare and point and look and become insensitive because they look a little different.
Okay.
So we do
Okay.
provide counseling, we provide clothing, we provide, we do a service where we go to the private schools and we teach fire prevention. So we do quite a few different things.
Okay, okay. Now, you know, I'm going to speak on, and not per se direct empiricism, but I think it was probably about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. My apartment complex was on the news, actually, and 8 units were burned down, actually. I came out on the porch that Sunday and I looked out and I saw all the fire trucks, you know, no, it wasn't even the ambulance. I assume everybody got out safely. But I think what went through my mind as I sat there, I said to myself, wow, I'm so grateful that is not me. And the reason, what I was thinking about is, boy, I can imagine what they're feeling being put out of their home with nothing, everything that they own. And I started telling them about, I said, if that was me, I wonder what I would have grabbed first. I said, I would have grabbed my clothes, you know, because I got to have some clothes to put on. And then I said, I may have grabbed this, that, and the other. But then my thoughts began to go deeper. And I started thinking, well, what about those persons? Because it was right before interviewing you, actually. So it was phenomenal that, you know, this happened in my complex, and now here we are. I guess I'd like to do this. Say hypothetically, and it's hard to get into this role, but say hypothetically, I was a victim. Say that, you know, I lost everything. Say that I had gotten burned. And say that my world has changed forever from what it was yesterday. I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm scared, I'm intimidated, I'm uncertain, I'm confused, I'm angry. What would you tell a brother like me?
Well, first of all, I would tell you what I went through in my story. I have counseled people, and I have gone in and talked to them, and they look at me and say, what can you tell me about being burned? And I said, oh, I'm glad you asked me that question. Let me tell you what I went through. And then after I tell them what I went through, I said, now, tell me what you're going through. I have talked to people where I've had to look at them and say, you know, I went through the very same thing that you're getting ready to go through. I was without sight. You know, I had no skin, I had no hair, I had no eyebrows, I had no eyelashes. I said, so you are going to heal from this, because God healed me, and he's not going to heal me and not heal you. Once you get healed and you come out of this hospital, I want you to come back and do the same thing I'm doing. Get someone out of this hospital and tell them what you went through and how the Lord healed you.
Yes.
So you have to get there, and you have to get in their face and explain to them what you've gone through, and explain to them they're going to have to go through the same thing, and they're going to have to do the same thing. And by counseling, that's also healing.
Okay.
Each time you counsel someone else, that's a healing for you also.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Stephanie, let me ask you something now. Of course, American Red Cross, you're the big brothers of most of the smaller organizations that are focusing on specific categories. We think, when we think Red Cross, we usually think blood, you know what I mean? Give more blood. However, you all do so much more. I don't care what happens, you're going to see America Red Cross first on the scene. For those of us who know very little about all of the entities of America Red Cross, tell us what it's all about in reference to some of the categories we may be ignorant to.
Okay, so how much time do you have?
Oh, wow. You know, I tell you what, I'll give you that nonverbal signal.
Okay. We provide disaster relief,
Yes.
which is the biggie that a lot of people see. And I would like to digress and say, with disaster services, a lot of people think tornadoes, hurricanes,
Yes.
the big disasters that make, you know, the national news. But we are there for Joe Blow,
Yes.
USA citizen,
Yes.
who has a single family fire.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be 5 units, 10 units, one family. It doesn't matter whether they have insurance, because I like to say to people that even if you have a good neighbor or if you're in good hands with all staff,
Yes.
you know, they're not going to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning.
True.
The Red Cross will
True.
be. So, you know, so we take care of disasters, big and small. We have a communication and counseling program that we work with members of the armed forces. There's an emergency, you know, Joe Soldier needs to come home because of an emergency in the family. The American Red Cross is that link to communicate to him the problem or the emergency that necessitate his presence back home. We provide international services, and that's really a big program within itself that people hear a little of. You have people in this country, family members in another country that's either war-torn or there's other type of other disasters like Somalia with the starvation and things that was going on. People worried about family. The International Red Cross, you know, has what we call a messaging service, and we help families communicate, find loved ones in countries that are being ravaged by natural disasters or man-made. Then we have lots of educational programs. We have HIV/AIDS program. We do that in the schools, the community. Anybody needs us. We have a community disaster education, very similar to what Linda was talking about, that we provide in the schools, the community, health and safety. Everybody that ever took a swimming class. Somewhere down the line, it was a Red Cross swimming class.
I recall.
And then the first aid and CPR. And can I make a real quick plug? March the 1st. March is always Red Cross month. And Saturday, March the 1st, we are providing a free CPR class throughout the Metro Atlanta area. It's a $40 class. So anyone who's always wanted to take CPR and never felt that they had the time or the money, they need to go to our website and register for our CPR
Wonderful.
class.
That's good information.
And we're just there. There's just so many programs that we provide. Red Cross has a lot to offer to the community. And if it was not for the dedication of the volunteers, we would not be able to provide the myriad of services that we do and to reach the numbers of people that we reach in our services. So, so it's a great organization to work with. It's fun. I mean, from day to day, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I know when I think of American Red Cross, you know, you see it everywhere and you think they have all they need, but it is the volunteers that keep it going, so we always need more volunteers.
Definitely.
You know, so those of us out there in television land, if you are looking for an organization to assist, of course, American Red Cross is an excellent one. I'm interested in, and I think both of you all have worked with this particular group, and as I read, I personally saw pictures of this group of young people. So I guess I'm going to zoom over here to you, Linda, because I think you work more direct, Heartburn does, with Camp Uyula. Am I on there?
That's right.
I'll tell you, just give me a moment, I'll work it out. But Camp Uyula, which is an excellent camp, working with our survivors. But I think they're young children. Tell us about that experience.
Camp Uyula is a burn camp for children. Any child in Atlanta that's been burned can go to this camp free. It's 7 days. They have excellent activities. It's from age 5 to 18. They have firefighters that volunteer, burn survivors, or anyone that wants to be a volunteer can be. But the camp is wonderful. It is free. And they have camping, they have all type of activities, they have parties, they go to the beach, they have limousine rides. So they have numerous activities going on from the very beginning, from the day they get there to the day they leave. So it's excellent. So any child that's ever been burned in Georgia, this is a free camp. And it's very healing because these survivors see other children that have been burned. And a lot of times when you're burned, you feel like you're the only one that's been burned. So when they get there, they meet the other survivors, and a lot of healing goes on, a lot of lasting relationships. So it is a wonderful camp. It's put on by the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation.
And how long does that camp last? I know I used to go to camp, and it was like a 6-week experience. How long is the camp?
It's 7 days.
7 days.
7
Okay,
days.
very good. And the young people are really benefiting from it, come out with a new rejuvenated spirit and all.
They do, and they have lasting relationships. they talk about their surgeries, and they keep up with each other.
Yes.
When are you having surgery? When are you having a skin graft? Or whatever.
Okay.
And they really bond because it's something that they're both going through.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful
okay,
camp.
okay. And Steph, let me ask you this: American Red Cross, of course, as you're working hand in hand with Linda and the Heartburn organization, I think I read somewhere where you also have, I don't know if it was American Red Cross or the Heartburn, that actually have associations with some of the fire departments. The firefighter departments actually are helping, assisting in what you're doing because it is all in the same concept. Anybody want to jump on that?
I think it's both of us
Okay.
because our relationship with the fire department starts with them calling us and notifying us when a family's burned out, helping us to be able to get to the fire scene, to get across the police, blockades, things of that nature. And we also work with the fire departments with our community disaster education.
Okay.
We work hand in hand in going to the schools and teaching children about fire drills, smoke detectors, just basically fire safety. And Linda has also, begun doing work on that same level as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we both have benefited from that relationship.
And how do you utilize the firefighters into what you're doing, Linda?
Well, they work with us. Anytime we have any kind of a fundraiser or whatever, they're always there. Any kind of need, we can always call them and ask them if they'll assist us, if they'll help us. Right now, we're trying to put on a fundraiser, and I just talked to 24 chiefs from the different counties, and they told me whatever it is that you're doing, whatever you need us to do,
Yes.
we will be there to help you with it.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful.
they're like big brothers.
Okay.
They're wonderful.
Do you think
Yeah.
there's enough awareness in the society concerning what you're doing?
No, we teach fire prevention classes in the private schools, and the main thing we stress is make sure you have a meeting place, because most people, they don't sit down and talk about a fire escape plan.
Okay.
And the main thing is, if you have a fire escape plan, you must have a meeting place, because I've talked to many survivors in the hospital that have lost other family members because they did not have a place to meet. They went out the front door, somebody went back out the back door, and they went back in the house looking for someone that was already out.
Wow.
So if they have a central meeting place, then they will know who's in the house and who's out of the house.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're about through with our beautiful show here because I know it will go by swiftly. In 30 seconds, if you can, I know it's difficult. How has your relationship with your spiritual association with God changed since that experience on the airplane? In 30 seconds.
I know it's a struggle that makes you strong. And if I had not gone through what I've gone through, I probably couldn't get through what I'm going through in certain situations that I'm going through now.
Okay.
But once you have come through the fire and come out on the other side, you know it was God.
Awesome.
And He has something for you to do, and I'm doing it because
All
I
right.
cannot go back and be a heaven reject.
All
I've got to
right.
get in this time.
Okay, very, very good. I want to thank you all once again. Linda, thank you so much for coming on the show. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on the show. And again, I want to say to all of our viewing audiences, we had this show simply because we find that there's certain, I would say, focus on certain subject matters that is not as emphasized as should be. Being in the process of an experience like firefighters, burn survivors, people who are actually helping those survivors, we all have a responsibility. Let us come together. Let us give a helping hand. Let us help in whatever way we can. Thank God for you. Thank God for our guests. And remember, it's nothing more, nothing less but God's grace in motion. Until next time, my beautiful sister, thank you.
Thank you.